Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. I think we can turn the heat off now. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of December 2024 in San Diego, we're reading Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 16, the Divine and Demoniac Natures, text 22 at the top of page 635. Etar Vimukta Kaunteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadati atmanah shreyas tato yati parangatim etava mukta konteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim etava mukta konteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim etava mukta konteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim. Go ahead, Arjuna. Etava mukta kaunteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim. Etava mukta kaunteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim. No? Etava mukta kaunteya tamodvarais tribirnaraha achadat yatmanak shreyas tato yati param gatim. Anyone online?
Etava mukta kaunteya
Etava mukta kaunteya
tamodvarais tribirnaraha
tamodvarais tribirnaraha
acharat atmana shreyas
acharat yatmanak shreyas
tato jati param gatim.
tato yati param gatim. Is Ami there too?
Yes, she's there.
But she can chant. No?
She has some voice issue today.
Okay, all right. Etai, from these, vimuktaha, being being liberated, Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, tamaha dvarahai, from the gates of ignorance, tribhi, of three kinds, naraha, a person, achadati, performs, apanaha, for the self, shreyaha, benediction, tataha, therefore, yati, he goes, param, to the supreme, gatim, destination. So before I read this translation, I'm going to read the last translation because they go together. There are three gates leading to this hell. I'll read the rest two translations. Attaining repeated, okay, text 19, just translation. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life, O son of Kunti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. For every sane man should give these up, for they lead to degradation of the soul. Okay, today's translation. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kunti, performs acts conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. Purport. One should be very careful of these three enemies to human life: lust, anger, and greed. The more a person is freed from lust, anger, and greed, the more his existence becomes pure. Then he can follow the rules and regulations enjoined in the Vedic literature. By following the regulative principles of human life, one gradually raises himself to the platform of spiritual realization. If one is so fortunate by such practice to rise to the platform of Krishna consciousness, then success is guaranteed for him. In the Vedic literature, the ways of action and reaction are prescribed to enable one to come to the stage of purification. The whole method is based on giving up lust, greed, and anger. By cultivating knowledge of this process, one can be elevated to the highest position of self-realization. This self-realization is perfected in devotional service. In that devotional service, the liberation of the conditioned soul is guaranteed. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, there are instituted the 4 orders of life and the 4 statuses of life. Statuses means the social orders, and then there's the spiritual orders, called the caste system and the spiritual order system. There are different rules and regulations for different castes or divisions of society, and if a person is able to follow them, he will be automatically raised to the highest platform of spiritual realization. Then he can have liberation without a doubt. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So these last concluding verses of the chapter, which ends with text 24, we'll finish that tonight. So Krishna is describing, first of all, what happens if you're an out-and-out demon and you have the qualities beginning with Damba. Dambo Darpo Vimanascha. Damba is an interesting word because Prabhupada always defines it as pride, and then sometimes he says false pride. And so Damba has this essential quality of hypocrisy. And it often means, as explained in previous texts, that the demons, they want to seem and look as if they're religious, because it's good in society if you look religious. Who would ever suspect someone of being an out-and-out demon if he goes to church? You know. So that's Damba, is putting on a false front of being religious when actually you're demonic. Actually, you know, so that's the first quality of the demons, is that they're deceitful. Dambo Darpa. Darpa literally means vanity. That's why a mirror is called a Darpana. Because you can be very vain before a mirror. You ever think about that, right? Cheto Darpana margin, in the mirror of the mind. So Dambo Darpa Abhimanas. Abhimanas is literally, you know, a great deal of pride. What does it say? Amani na manadena. To be free of mana, this pride, always ready to offer honor to others. You see? So Krishna mentioned all these divine qualities at the beginning of the chapter. I think 28 of them at that point, and the long purport explained each one. And then the rest of the chapter is dedicated to the demons. Not dedicated to the demon, but dedicated to describing the demons. So then after all of this description, and one of my favorites is where Krishna is actually taking the role of a demon, and he speaks like a demon. This is in text 14. Ishvaroham maham bogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. I am the controller. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. Who's going to challenge me? He's not like Hiranyakashipu. That's the demoniac mentality. So you can see ahankaram, balam, darpam. Here's the word darpa, right? Pride, strange, false ego. This is text 18. So what happens? Those who are thus envious and mischievous, lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of materialists and the various demonic species of life. So this is the hellish destination that Krishna is describing. In repeated births amongst demoniac life, they never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. So if anyone is reading and is kind of, you know, not a demon and not a saint, just sort of an ordinary person, says, I want to try to avoid that destiny, you know, if you have faith in this. So Krishna is describing how you can do that. There's these 3 gates leading to the hell: lust, anger, and greed. Krishna spoke about these in the 2nd chapter, famous verse, Dhayato vishayan pungsa sangat teshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama Kama, krodha, vijayate, krodha, bhavati, sammoha, sammoha, smriti, vibhrama. So he's describing how it all begins with where you place your attention. This is actually where your destiny is made. Where you putting your attention and with what purpose. Now, if you're always contemplating the objects of the senses, obviously you become attracted to them. And then that'll cancel out, you know, any philosophical inquiry or something. You want to have enjoyment, you know. So that's kind of, it becomes like an animalistic type of life. And he gives this progression. When you contemplate the objects of the senses, you get attached to them. Yeah, sangas teshu jayato vishaya pungsang sangas teshu bhajaya. This word sangha means attachment. And then from the sangha the attachment grows. Sangat sanjayate kama. It becomes an obsession. It becomes a very strong desire. You know, you can't think of anything else. You know, and naturally, because of the way the material world works, you can't always fulfill those desires. You get frustrated. You become angry. Become angry at some other person or the world in general. And if you can't express your anger, you turn it inward. You become depressed. Oh, I tried to enjoy. I can't enjoy now. I'm useless. You know. So that's another type of mode of ignorance, you know. And anger is also a mode of ignorance. And in the anger, krodha bhavati sammoha, it means you become completely bewildered. You do something that you regret for the rest of your life. You may kill somebody and say, "Oh my God, you know, what have I done?" You know. Or you do something that you may not be so radical as killing, but you commit some kind of crime. You do something, and then you get, you know, punished. You get in jail. So many things. It's a slippery slope downward. So, and he describes sammoha, smriti vibhrama. You forget, you lose your memory. You forget who you are. You act like somebody else. You know, you're possessed with this anger. Your lust is set. You know, someone robbed you or whatever. And so, smriti vibhrama, you forget your memory. And when memory is lost and intelligence is lost, you fall into the material pool. You know, so it's disaster. So how to avoid that? Trivadam narakassedam dwaram nashanam atmana. So there's these three gates, lust, anger, and greed. One who is free of them, text 22, this is what we began. Etava mukta, liberated, tamo dvarais, these doors to darkness and ignorance and suffering, triple doors. That person, what do? Acharati atmanak shreyas. They perform actions that are auspicious for the soul, for the selves. This is the alternative. The two roads. One is to darkness and suffering, and one is to light and shreyas. You know, ultimately, it's not just shreyas, but it's what is that verse? Labdva sudurlam abhidamboh sambhavante manushim artadamanichma piyadira turnam yatetana pated anamrityavat nikshayasaya. Nikshayasa means the ultimate good fortune. So, acharati atmanak shreyas, they perform activity that is good for the soul, that is wholesome for the soul and beneficial. And ultimately, tato yati padam gatim. If they really have escaped those three gates and they're serious about this activity, then they can go to the supreme goal. So, then the last two verses kind of hammer it all home, very important verses. So let's go on. Text number 23. Yak shastra vidamutsrijya. All right, let's do it one more time. Yak shastra vidamutsrijya. Vartate kamakarataha. Nasa siddhim vapnoti. Nasukam naparangatim. So with this verse and the next, Krishna has introduced the idea of the Shastra, which is the all-important factor here. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. Purport. As described before, the Shastra Vidhi, or the direction of the Shastra, is given to the different castes and orders of human society. Everyone is expected to follow these rules and regulations. If one does not follow them and acts whimsically according to his lust, greed, and desire, then he never will be perfect in this life. In other words, a man may theoretically know all these things, but if he does not apply them in his own life, then he is to be known as the lowest of mankind. In the human form of life, a living entity is expected to be sane and to follow the regulations given for elevating his life to the highest platform. But if he does not follow them, then he degrades himself. But even if he follows the rules and regulations and moral principles and ultimately does not come to the stage of understanding the Supreme Lord, then all his knowledge becomes spoiled. And even if he accepts the existence of God, if he does not engage himself in the service of the Lord, his attempts are spoiled. Therefore, one should gradually raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness and devotional service. That probably should be Krishna consciousness, devotional service. It is then and there that he can attain the highest perfectional stage, not otherwise. The word kama karataha is very significant. A person who knowingly violates the rules acts in lust. He knows that this is forbidden, but still he acts. This is called acting whimsically. He knows that this should be done, but still he does not do it. Therefore he is called whimsical. Such persons are destined to be condemned by the Supreme Lord. Such persons cannot have the perfection which is meant for the human life. The human life is especially meant for purifying one's existence, and one who does not follow the rules and regulations cannot purify himself, nor can he attain the real stage of happiness. So, this is actually the bottom line. The question is, you may read that book, the Bhagavad Gita, but your success will be if you imbibe the principles of the Bhagavad Gita and you transform your life in such a way that you comport yourself. Because if we were already doing it, then we'd be Krishna conscious already. The whole idea is to understand that in the material frame of life, which is devoid of Krishna consciousness, it's a very risky and indeed a doomed path. Because without the higher direction of Krishna, as given through a bona fide line of devotees in the spiritual master, you're helpless before all these material influences in this Kali Yuga. And they come from all directions. I mean, I take on this walk, you know, this is my there's so much you can learn from the walk. So where is everybody at? You know, I see some people, even though it's early in the morning, there's some people, there's two reasons why people are out mostly. They're going to that gym I mentioned, you know, like they're coming, you know. They're very dedicated. Sometimes more dedicated than we are to come to Mangalarti, but that's another thing. But, and then there's the dog walkers. You know, the dog has its biorhythms and they have to go out and, okay, we got to serve the dog, you know. So, you know, I always give them a chance, you know, as I'm going, I greet them, good morning, you know. And most people reflexively will give you a good morning, which is this is what Prabhupada's standard was. He wasn't always saying, Hare Krishna, everybody, you know. In fact, there's a nice, I listened to this lecture, he's in Mexico, somebody's on a morning walk, and they said, Buenos dias, and he wasn't sure exactly what there was. They asked him what it was. And so they said, Buenos dias, which means good day, good morning. So when Prabhupada learned that, and then every other person, he said, Buenos dias. He would say, Buenos Because if the people that, you know, reciprocate that for a pure devotee like that, they get benefit. You know, there's some benefit. So anyway, that's what you see, but you know, I can't really give them much. You know, they see this guy chanting. Maybe they know I'm a Hare Krishna. I mean, I'm chanting my rounds while I'm doing this, and you know, I've got my suit on, regular Hare Krishna clothes. So I think they know, you know, because this temple has been here for about 50 years. So there's a Hare Krishna temple. But anyway, it's. I think I still got it. Yeah. Sometimes I find coins. This dime was on the sidewalk. I'm going to throw it in the handi there, and that's somebody's beginning of his devotional service. That'll stand somebody in good stead. You know? But anyway, so it's like Krishna's laying down. You know, he's not mincing any words. There's no time to waste. You know, every word counts. You know, urgent situation. The armies are all waiting. You know. So, Shastra Vidam, one who disregards and disregards the Shastra. Vidam means the orders of the Shastra, the instructions. Do this, and don't do that. Now we can resist on both sides. I don't want to do that, that's a waste of time. Or don't do that. Why? I'm attached to doing that. I don't want to give that up. So there's resistance on both sides, you see. But that's where the faith comes in. And that's where the personal touch has to be there. Because the faith really begins in a person. Someone who is embodying the principles that you read about in the book. And that was why Prabhupada was so important, because he obviously embodied them. I mean, he had so many provocations, that states where he's living with this guy who's an LSD addict, And then the guy kind of goes nuts and he starts staring at Prabhupada. He looks getting violent. Prabhupada had to run down the stairs into the street. He didn't have anyone. Suddenly he had his phone number. He had Mukunda's phone number. He helped him out. But this is what Prabhupada was undergoing, And Prabhupada really had hopes for this guy who was living with. He seemed to be helping a lot. He invited Prabhupada into his home. He was the one and things were going on. They had programs up there. This was the loft, in the Bowery. But it proved untenable. And Krishna, he had his plan. He wanted to move Prabhupada into 22nd Avenue, which was much more favorable. So, but accepting the service and accepting the words of the realized soul, you recognize, and you're fortunate enough to recognize, is an essential aspect, because it's the Shastra. You hear what Prabhupada is speaking, it's all in Shastra. So it's the personified Shastra. And if you're accepting his words and you say, okay, I'll chant, you may not chant 16 rounds, but you chant, all right, I'll try to give up these 4 things, it will be difficult. Maybe I'll give up the first 3, but I don't know about that last one, whatever. But still, you're making an effort, you're moving forward, And Krishna sees that, and he'll give you encouragement. He'll give you some bliss in the kirtan, you appreciate it, and you'll experience, and you want to do more. So here he's laying down the law. If you give up the Shastra Vidis, if you give up the instructions of the Shastra, and what's the alternative? Well, then you continue to act on the impulse of kama, of your material desire. Then there'll be no perfection, no happiness, and you won't go to the supreme goal, back to Godhead. It means you'll take birth again, suffer birth, death. So this is the choice we have. It's very simple. That, either accept the instructions of Shastra, that Srila Prabhupada has given us so much here, and try to mold your life as far as possible, move toward that, of living the Krishna conscious lifestyle. Mostly chanting the holy name. It's so essential because Krishna understands that. And as I said last night, as I was encroaching on the last part of the program, I got a little long. But Shinvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Kuridyan Taksto Abhadrani Vidanodi Sutitsatam. This is actually an explanation of Lord Chaitanya's first verse of Shikshastika. How Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Okay, Sankirtan is doing that. Well, how does it do that? Because Krishna is inside your heart. He's the one who's cleaning your heart. He's the one who's polishing that mirror. And what are the benefits? You become you become less attached to the material pleasures, so to speak, and more interested and attached to perform spiritual activities. In other words, Krishna is attracting you, the all-attractive Krishna, away from Maya, and giving you the spiritual strength to accept the vidis, even when there's some austerity there, you have to undergo. So that's the idea. Yakshata Vidamutsuja. And we read that one, right? This 23? Yes. Yeah, okay. Why don't we read the last? This is the last verse, very important verse. Tasmat, therefore for the whole chapter. Tasmat shastram pramanam te. Karya vyavastito. Gyatva shastra vadhanoktam. Karma kartamiharhasi. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may gradually be elevated. Purport. As stated in the 15th chapter, all the rules and regulations of the Vedas are meant for knowing Krishna. Who can give me the line in the verse? Vedaischa sarva ahameva vedo, Vedanta krit veda videvacha. By all the Vedas I am to be known, Krishna says. If one understands Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita and becomes situated in Krishna consciousness, engaging himself in devotional service, he has reached the highest perfection of knowledge offered by the Vedic literature. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made this process very easy. He asked people simply to chant. We're on page 637. Lord Chaitanya made this easy. He asked people simply to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And to engage in the devotional service of the Lord and eat the remnants of foodstuff offered to the deity. One who is directly engaged in all these devotional activities is to be understood as having studied all of Vedic literature. Maybe not in this life, but maybe some of the previous life. That's the verse in the Bhagavatam. He has come to the conclusion perfectly. Of course, for the ordinary persons who are not in Krishna consciousness or who are not engaged in devotional service, what is to be done and what is not to be done must be decided by the injunctions of the Vedas. One should act accordingly without argument. That is called following the principles of Shastra or Scripture. Shastra is without the four principal defects that are visible in the conditioned soul: imperfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations as described in the Shastra, being above these defects, are accepted without alteration by all great saints, acharyas, and great souls. In India, there are many parties of spiritual understanding, generally classified as two: the impersonalist and the personalist. Both of them, however, lead their lives according to the principles of the Vedas. Without following the principles of the scriptures, one cannot elevate himself to the perfectional stage. One who actually, therefore, understands the purport of the Shastras is considered fortunate. Okay. Yeah. In human society, aversion to the principles of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of all fall-downs. That is the greatest offense of human life. Aversion to understanding to the principles of understanding the Lord. Therefore, Maya, the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always giving us trouble in the shape of the threefold miseries. This material energy is constituted of the three modes of material nature. One has to raise himself at least to the mode of goodness before the path to understanding the Supreme Lord can be opened. Without raising oneself to the standard of the mode of goodness, one remains in ignorance and passion, which are the cause of demoniac life. Those in the modes of passion and ignorance deride the scriptures, deride the holy man, and deride the proper understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They disobey the instructions of the spiritual master, and they do not care for the regulations of the scriptures. In spite of hearing the glories of devotional service, they are not attracted. Thus they manufacture their own way of elevation. These are some of the defects of human society which lead to the demoniac status of life. If, however, one is able to be guided by a proper and bona fide spiritual master who can lead one to the path of elevation, to the higher stage, then one's life becomes successful. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the divine and demoniac natures. So these last two verses are kind of seminal. If you just study these, you actually get a good standing in Krishna consciousness if you accept them. So the 23 is more or less describing the mass of people. Certainly those who don't know anything about Krishna consciousness, they don't regard the vidis, the instructions of the Shastra. And how do they act? They have to act on the basis of material desire, kama karada. So they can certainly not attain perfection, but even their happiness, so-called happiness, is very fragile. It's temporary, And what to speak of the paramgatim, the ultimate goal. So they're more or less in the clutches of Maya. And without an intervention, just like, someone who's seriously addicted, you have a friend who became an alcoholic or something, and so what can I do for him, So you just grab him by the lapels, say, you're coming with me. We're going to go to the AA or something, and it's going to enlist there. And so if a person is submissive, he says he knows that you have his best interest at heart. You're not trying to exploit him or anything. You're trying to help him. Then if he's got some intelligence left, he'll submit to that. Say, okay, I'll go. And that can be the first step of getting out of that compulsion. The addiction is like Maya's, claws or whatever you want to say, are really in someone who's addicted to alcohol, drugs, or whatever it may be, that is impelling them to act against what they don't know, they know is their own best interest. Someone that's smoking a cigarette. It's hard for me to imagine why anyone would smoke today. Isn't it clear enough how damaging that is? It's self-destructive. It's crazy. But once you get into that, it's like it's taking away your intelligence. It's robbing you of your own free will. So Maya does that. You become addicted to this or that, this way of thinking, this philosophy, some crazy conspiracy theory. There's a million different things that you can become bewildered by, and then that's what you believe. Like during the pandemic, we had some devotees, who had bought into the idea that the vaccines were bad, that can give you the disease, the whole thing, And tragically, they didn't take the vaccine, and one of our senior devotees passed away from COVID. So this is exactly, it's very illustrative because the word pramana is the key. Pramana is what you accept as evidence for what you should do and what you should not do. Now, if you come under the control of some demagogue or something, and you don't have to go to some mass meeting anymore. You just have to hit the wrong buttons on your phone, and you're lost. And it's all the same thing. Prabhupada came because, how many times does he speak about people who use the Bhagavad Gita for some nefarious purpose? They're reading into it, Even Gandhi, who is a follower of, he tried to screw out ahimsa as the absolute ultimate principle of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, ahimsa is mentioned several times as one of the qualities, I think it's mentioned as one of the divine qualities here, But it's hardly the ultimate message of the Gita. The whole success of Krishna's teaching is that Arjuna will fight, that there's going to be a huge bloodbath. Of course, he insists nobody's going to really die, right? Never did the time that I didn't know you nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So all these soldiers will survive as spiritual beings. That's who we really are. That's the whole idea. But so the point is that we have to accept the Shastra as the pramana, as the real instruction of what we should do and what we should not do. And the more we accept that and actually follow it, the more we'll feel the benefit of that, because Krishna will be pleased. In the heart, he will be giving us dollops of bliss. We'll be feeling, and we'll feel less impinged upon by Maya. She won't have the hold. The hold becomes weaker. So this understanding the word pramana, I'll tell you, I had an experience. It's one that you haven't heard before, I think, even you. Back in '93, I think it was. There was a after the production of Srimad Bhagavatam, that actually obviously had to be completed. That was Prabhupada's opus that he wanted to try to finish it. So the BBT was very fixed in that. I was very fortunate to be part of the team that worked on the Bhagavatam, the 10th, 11th, and 12th cantos. So then the question is, well, what do we do next? What other books are we going to publish? We had a meeting, and I suggested there was 2 books that Prabhupada started but didn't finish. Mukunda Mala Stotra and the Narada Bhakti Sutra. Narada Bhakti Sutra isn't read so much, but it's actually a really nice book. You can read all the sutras in like half an hour. There's only 82 sutras. But they give a whole summary of bhakti. But the real substantial one was Mukunda Mala, and that was completed by Gopi Puranadana Babu and Satsut Maharaj. I didn't have a direct role in that. I think I just proofread it at the end. But anyway, then after that was, 89, late 80s, we finished it. And so then what? So I came to here and I started working on some of the books that you see, like the Journey of Self-Discovery, you know, and that book is still being distributed. And I frankly think, because it's not much different from some other books that we did, like you probably haven't heard of the Quest for Enlightenment. Have you ever heard of that one? No, you heard of it. Yeah, it had to stay. We printed them, you know, but then gradually did. But the Journey of Self-Discovery is going out, and I think it's the title. The title is, you know, is anyway. So that's you know, that is going on. But I forget what the train of thought. But the whole point is that Prabhupada's mission was to provide this knowledge, that make it available to people out there. You know, book distribution is so important. You'll find those few people among the people who you can run into on the street, you know, a small percentage are actually going to be, you know, we hear the stories, Govardhan and Vijayamani, mostly Govardhan tells the stories. And it sounds great, but those are like, you know, the 6 most interesting people we met, you know, the whole bunch of them you just passed by, you know. So that's the way it is. But that's always the way it is. You know, Prabhupada also do that. He would keep trying to somehow find somebody who could be turned, you know. And when he was a little successful, that was so enlivening to him, and he could feel, you know, Krishna's energy working like that. So we want to be counted among the fortunate for whom this knowledge is the life and soul, and it's actually the guiding light in our life. And the more that we can feel that at every moment, you know, that what we're doing. And the wonderful way to do it probably keeps coming back to it, like we read in the morning about chanting Hare Krishna. The more that you chant, you know, that you chant, you can feel Krishna's protection and his direction in that. And so many things, you know, can just run off your back. You know, somebody insults you out there, hey, Hare Krishna, you know, right? It doesn't, but if you're in the mode of ignorance, you know, someone insults you, are you kidding me? Bam! You know, right? Or you give some insult back and it's escalate, right? So it's all the modes, you know. So you can transcend those modes and become, you know, to the mode of goodness, where you're more tolerant. That's a tatikshavakara, you know. All right, so it's almost 8 o'clock. I think instead of our usual we review, but I'd like to start this next one because this chapter 17 is so important also. And Arjuna begins with echoing the verse from the next to last verse. He repeats verbatim the first words of text 23 when he starts. There's an obvious connection. Arjuna vacha. Ye shastra vinamutsrijya. Yajante shaddayan vitaha. Tesham nishtatu ka Krishna. Sattvamaho rajastamaha. Arjuna inquired, O Krishna, what is the situation of those who do not follow the principles of Scripture, but worship according to their own imagination? Are they in goodness, in passion, or in ignorance? Purport. In the 4th chapter, 39th verse, it is said that a person faithful to a particular type of worship gradually becomes elevated to the stage of knowledge and attains the highest perfectional stage of peace and prosperity. In the 16th chapter, it is concluded that one who does not follow the principles laid down in the scriptures is called an asura, or demon, and one who follows the scriptural injunctions faithfully is called a deva, or demigod. Now, if one, with faith, follows some rules which are not mentioned in the scriptural injunctions, what is his position? This doubt of Arjuna's is to be cleared by Krishna. Are those who create some sort of God by selecting a human being and placing their faith in him, worshipping in goodness, passion, or ignorance? Do such persons attain the perfectional stage of life? Is it possible for them to be situated in real knowledge and elevate themselves to the highest perfectional stage? Do those who do not follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures, but who have faith in something and worship gods and demigods and men, attain success in their effort? Arjuna is putting these questions to Krishna. So, back to the fundamental principle of faith. I mean, what is faith? Faith, there's two verses in the Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu that are quoted in a purport. I forget which purport. But they're really worth memorizing because they describe the whole progress from faith to prema, from Shraddha to prema. Adhau Shraddha tatak sadhu sangha tabhajana kriya. Tato anartha nivritti sat tato nishta ruchis tata. Tata saktis tata bhava tata prema abhujantati sadhakanam ayam prema prarabha krama. So these are the step by step. So it begins with faith. Now this is not the firm faith of an experienced practitioner who's advanced, free of most of anarthas. This is that faith is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, is described by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. It says, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudridhanastroy Krishna Bhakti Korli Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. We should aspire to come to this level of faith, which is mentioned in the Adhau Shraddha verse, Nishta. The Nishta is the firm faith. So this faith is defined as, Shraddha, real faith is defined as the firm conviction that just by practicing the principles of devotional service, the do's and don'ts, that all of my aspirations will be fulfilled. That's all I need to do. That'll clear the path back to Godhead. I won't have to come back again. That's what the faith is. But this faith, Adhau Shraddha, probably describe it as interest, respect. It's enough faith for you to visit the temple, come in, check it out, Or these days, push the certain buttons so that you'll be able to get onto the site where you hear a kirtan or you hear a lecture. There's a lot of good stuff on the internet. So that's what the original Shraddha. And what is the next step? Tatak sadhu sangha. You get the sangha, either personally or even through some medium like the internet or books. That's also sadhu sangha. That's sangha with Krishna and with Prabhupada in this case. So sadhu sangha, and then if you're receptive, bhajana kriya. Then you want to do some practice. Well, here's the beads. Let me show you how to chant. I said, oh, okay. You chant. You begin chanting. Maybe that's 16 rounds, but you're chanting. You're starting. And if that bhajana is continued, especially in the association of sadhus, devotees, bhajana tato, then you're becoming purified. Anartha nivritti. Now, how fast those anarthas, those unwanted things, are cleared from the heart is the same as the abhadras we spoke of. That's up to us, how determined we are, how much we're ready to accept the do's and don'ts, So it's going on, and in our activity. Now, at a certain point, initiation, it should be there, because that really helps to open up the channel of the mercy coming down from the parampara, and like that. So that's an important part of it. And so, according to your determination and faith and practice, you'll come to that stage of nishta. Nishta is the faith. That's the faith I described. Firm conviction, this is Krishna consciousness for me. I can feel the benefits, and I'm really confident I want to continue, So if you continue nicely, then you start to become really attracted to Krishna. You're really interested in reading about him, hearing about him, glorifying him, serving, and like that. So that's that asaktis, which as attraction become matured into asaktis tada bhavas, ultimately into ecstatic situation, which comes into prema. There's just more and more purification. So that's the whole point. It's the cleansing process. It's already there. The prema is there. It's just being misdirected toward things of this world out of ignorance. But that's so encouraging. That the treasure we're searching out there is already in here. We just have to purify so that we can experience it and feel it. So everybody is eligible. So now he goes back to the modes of nature. What is that quality of faith for someone who is not referring to the Shastra? Because everybody has faith in something. You have, just like the world moves on faith. You're driving down this grand avenue here. On my walk, I start out there, and they're driving almost 50 miles an hour. They see the green light, So you have pure faith that green light, there's a red light here. Right? You have faith in that light. You take it for granted. So faith is a constant in this world. But faith in what? I have faith in this diet that will build up my muscles, and then I'll be able to attract the girls better. Okay. You buy it, Now, whenever you buy something, there's faith that what you buy is good, what you're hoping to buy, and you benefit from it, So, but faith in Krishna and in the holy name of Krishna is not so easy to come by, because it's not self-evident according to our material calculation. And that's why the association of devotees, and especially pure devotees, is so important, because you see it manifest. Because you can see the benefits. You say, oh, I like what he's got, let me try to be like that. So it's getting a little late. We'll continue this. Tomorrow, I don't think there can be a class. Maybe I should. Those of you online, if you think we should have a class, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We are going to go out on the big Harinam starting at 10:30. So it's going to be a long night. Probably I should be taking a nap at this time. But if there's an upsurge, upswell of desire online that we'll have a class, then we'll have a class. I'll try to let you know. But okay, we have time for one poem. So I'll give you these two. This is text number 1. Of 2 ashtakas in the Govinda Lilamrita, spoken by the male and female parrot. The male parrot glorifies Krishna, the female parrot glorifies Radha. So the male parrot says, Ambudanjananda Nila Nindikandi Dambada Kunkumodya Data Vidyurancha Divya Dambada Shimadangi Charchitenu Pita Nakta Chandana Swangvi Dasya Dostu Mesa Balla Vendu Nandana. His dark complexion mocks mascara, sapphires, and the blackish cloud. His garments shine like reddish rising sun with lightning bolts endowed. With sandal paste enhanced with camphor are his handsome limbs replete. May none the sun bestow on me the service of his lotus feet. Kunkamakta kanchanamta gavahari godabha. Pita nanchitabda kanda kirti nindi sodabha. Ballavesha suna sava vanchitarti sadhika maya matra pada padmadasi dastu radhika. Now you may have heard Bhakti Charo Swami's song of this. I don't know if that's what you're thinking of. Many years ago he recorded this.
Isn't it this Radhikashtakam, the second one?
Yeah, that's the one I'm singing.
The first one I've never heard.
That's the Nandananashtakam. That's the companion. That's the Shuka singing, and this is the Shari, the female parent. Her gold complexion steals the pride of golden lotus tinged with red. Her fragrance mocks the scent of lotus bloom with saffron powder spread. Her skill in satisfying Sri Hari is perfect and complete. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. So you write to me, Dravida 108 at Gmail. I'll send you my poetry, and it's in there. It's a lot of other stuff. And then you can share with all the others. Okay, we better get ready for our tea. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Yeah.